Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and of course that makes this episode 20 of Circles and Squares, and Merry Christmas everyone. It's the Christmas edition.
Ooh, this is where we add in like little jingle bells.
We'll see what we can do. I
We'll
don't know.
see.
But
Just imagine them if they're not there.
well, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays everyone. We are actually recording this on Christmas Eve morning, so that makes it extra festive. And for those of you that are celebrating something else or not celebrating at all, then I just hope you're enjoying the end of the year, getting some time with family, maybe a bit of time off work, and looking forward to better things hopefully in 2021, hey?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is our big last episode of the year. So therefore we are going to be doing our Circles and Squares first annual awards show for, some games that really stood out to us over the year that we played, both new and old games, right, Kate? We're not doing just games from this year. We're doing anything we've played, in general over the years. So that'll be the second half of the show. But of course, we'll start off with what we've been playing. One thing as well, if you want to get your predictions in for next episode, we'll be doing, for our first show of January, will be our 2021 predictions episode. So we'll be revisiting the predictions we made, I think back on episode 5 for 2020, seeing how we did, and then both be giving 5 predictions for 2021. It can be anything to do with video games, PlayStation, otherwise. We'll see what we come up with. But if you'd like to send your predictions in to us and get them read out on the show, please send them in to circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com, all one word. We'll be happy to read them, and we'll tell you if your predictions are good or if they're kind of weak, hey?
That's right. And you remember from the quality of ours, we started off pretty strong with our 2020 predictions, and then kind of fell off the bus a little bit. But maybe you'll do better than we did.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, get those into us. Thank you very much for sending them in and all your support, of course. But yeah, so Kate, why don't we get into what we've been playing? Tell me about your stuff.
Perfect. Well, I think this is very fitting that it's our Christmas episode because it's an absolute Christmas miracle that I have finally started playing The Last of Us. So it's obviously part 1, the first one. It's the remastered version, although I have been playing it on PS4, not on PlayStation 5, despite it being part of the collection that was given out. But I've got to say, my first impression, the game holds up incredibly well.
You know, that's the one thing is it's so impressive how that game looks and feels considering it was made 7 years ago.
Yes, and obviously the remaster helps a lot. It's not like I'm playing the base version back from 2013, but yeah, I wouldn't be totally surprised if it had come out a year ago. It still holds up really well. The game is really good. I haven't gotten too far yet, but even just from the beginning, the opening few hours, I think I can see why this game made such an impression on people when it came out. So just a few notes I made. The first thing, obviously, the visuals are great. The environments still look beautiful. The character models are slightly, I would say the one thing that slightly dates it, I think the voice acting and the facial capture and stuff is really good. And at the time it would have been amazing. I don't remember anything that was on par with it, but I think just the way that the characters move is a little bit more stiff than sort of what we've come to know in games in 2020.
Yeah, so maybe how the characters interact with touching things around them in their environments and whatnot.
Yeah, and just you're moving around, sometimes you're sneaking and all of a sudden Ellie will pop out of cover and kind of awkwardly not teleport, but kind of zoom around the room, and then she'll be back in a cover. And so there's a couple janky things here and there, but it's absolutely small potatoes, not enough to take you out of the game at all. And I think the other thing that it's so good is the writing is obviously the big thing. So I was paying attention to the story a lot as we go, and I like to make predictions and see where it's gonna go.
How about that opening scene, hey?
The opening, yeah, it's very impactful. And what got me about the opening scene, and I don't think this is too much spoilers. I think most people played it right now.
This game, everyone's played. You're the last person on Earth to play The Last of Us. There's no spoiler worries here.
I'm the Last of Us. But yeah, when it ends that first opening cutscene and it jumps to 20 years later, that was I was not expecting that. I was expecting 3 years later. When those time jumps are always quite small, and it was 20, and I was oh, and Joel is quite a different person than how I pictured him coming into the game. So I'm interested to see he's a lot more reluctant than I had anticipated, and you know he's gonna end up like having his Kratos like becoming a dad moment.
Yeah, right. Well, he
Or
was a
like I
dad
guess
before. That's the thing.
yeah, I guess in his case, like remembering to be a dad and like, you know, getting his softer side back. So I'm looking forward to that. Ellie is immediately very likable. But she's also like shown to be a bit kind of like hot-headed and reckless, which is a neat contrast. Like I like the idea that she's very much not a perfect character even from the beginning, but she's still like, you know, like the innocent kid you're trying to protect.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how their dynamic goes. Tess was a really funny character to have around too. I didn't even know that she was a character in the game because she's like in none of the promotional stuff. She's not on the box of the game. She's just like some lady that hangs out with you at the beginning, and you're like, oh, I don't think this is gonna end well for you. I do not have a
And
good
spoilers,
feeling.
it does not end well for
It
her.
does not. But yeah, I'm a bit past that part now. I've met another character, Bill,
Yep. So you're really
who
still in the infant stages of the game, basically.
yeah, I'm still pretty early, but and I considered saving it, but I just had such an impression of this game from playing it for the first time that I wanted to talk about it. And obviously I think it's exciting. I'm also proud of myself to finally be able to say I'm fucking playing this
Me
game.
too. You texted me the other day that you'd started it, and I was just like, "Oh my god, finally! Yes, like I know, I
Mhm.
need you to play this. So you can play the sequel, so we can talk about it and have like a spoiler cast on the show because
Yes,
it's like one of
exactly.
those things we just need to discuss."
Yeah, exactly. As much as I am enjoying the first one, like, you know, I've got the second one in the back of my mind. Like, there was a scene where like Ellie couldn't swim, and you had to figure that out. And I was like, but I know she can swim later. Like, woo, we're gonna teach her.
Yeah, it's
Like,
weird you're playing it like with a retro perspective. Like you know, for example, that
yeah,
like no matter what happens, Ellie and Joel will make it through because they're in the sequel, for example, right? So it's kind of cool
yeah.
to play, but I don't know if is it taking any of the mystery away from you at all?
I mean, I think like for the most part, no. Like I still like somehow managed to avoid any kind of spoiler, so I have absolutely no idea where the story's gonna go. So I think I'm lucky in that way that I, you know, partially by choice and partially just, you know, getting lucky on the internet. I don't have anything really spoiled for me. Obviously, I know that like yeah, Ellie's not just gonna die because she's in the second game. So I guess that can maybe take away a little bit of the tension from like some high stakes scenes. But I don't know, like, I don't know if, like, Joel's gonna get bit later and they, like, find a way to cure him, like, there's so many variables that could happen,
Yeah, right.
so
Yeah,
I think
just them being in the sequel is such a minor like light, and almost like, you almost would have thought they would make it anyway, I guess. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, so and I think that's good, and I think also this is the kinda game that, like, maybe they make it, but not quite in the way I expect, so I think
yeah,
there's still a good amount of mystery there, which is perfect because I think that's, like, you know, like, the main draw of the game, but gameplay-wise, it's really good too, like, I think the gunplay is satisfying, like, I don't really have too much to say about it. We have a few different types of guns. We just got the bow, which is really exciting,
oh yeah.
'cause
How
it's
do you
only
feel about the
5.
bow? Because for
Uh,
me, like I found that I didn't really use it too much
oh, okay,
personally, but I mean
interesting.
it's useful though. It's just like one of those things you can only upgrade. You don't find a whole ton of upgrade benches around. I'm sure you've noticed. Like
Yes, I think I've
so
seen 1 so far.
yeah. So you really have to pick and choose. Like it's not like I didn't like the bow. It just didn't end up being one that I used a lot of resources on.
Right. Yeah, I haven't actually used it yet. I am playing with 2 people, so we've kind of been, like, throwing the controller around,
Yeah.
and I haven't personally used the bow yet. I've just used a couple of the guns, and they both feel really good. The I really like too that there's little statistics for, like, headshots and your accuracy and stuff. So, like, those kind of things, like, it's, like, small minor details, but they really add a lot to me. Like, I like checking at the beginning or the end of every play like, session with that we sit down, and it's like, "Oh, how many times have we done this?" And like, "Oh, we've thrown 1 brick at a guy's head." Like, "Oh, we should do that again. That was fun." So I like that kind of stuff. The Naughty Dog set pieces are really in play in this game, which I adore. There's that section early on where you're kind of like hanging from the ceiling,
And one of Bill's traps, I believe,
and
right?
yeah, you're in one of Bill's traps and you're upside down hanging from the ceiling, and Ellie's like cutting you loose. But while she's doing that, there's a bunch of like zombies hoarding into the room, but you're shooting them, but you're upside down and you're kind of disoriented. And like that was such a cool moment that like I think is so signature to Naughty Dog's style, at least like from having played Uncharted.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
absolutely.
I like that that carried over a lot because I think like, well, the gameplay is really solid and it feels good to play aside from Joel being like incredibly slow. I don't know why he can't run all the time.
It's
But
because this
like
man's been jogging around carrying that backpack without
yeah,
having a shower for years.
I guess that's
That's why
true.
he's
Like, you
slow,
know,
Kate.
sure, he's conserving his energy, but like oh man, he's a little bit slow. But other than that, like, yeah, like, we're here kind of for like the experience of the world and the story more so than the gameplay, even though like it holds up well. So like those cinematic moments are kind of like, like what the cookie crumbs that like drive you to the next bit. So I think it's really good. The other thing I want to say about it is a first impression that I'm still impressed with in 2020 because not a lot of games like incorporate this very like elegantly, but it has so much good like object world environment in combat specifically. So there's times where like you do a lot of like, or at least I do so far, a lot of like melee attacking.
Hmm.
Um, because like I don't know to like what degree I'm gonna be able to find ammo and stuff in this game. It seems like relatively generous, so maybe I don't need
It's
to be
not
as
too
cautious
bad.
as
It's
I
not too
am,
bad
but
because
like
it's not like a traditional horror type game, you know? Like they're not trying to starve you for ammo. They're just trying to make it so you can't use your gun in like every situation.
yeah, I like it. There's a bit of a tension, but it's not like a Resident Evil where you're like, "Oh, I can't use my gun, like, I'm terrified." So, I think it is good, but we still been mailing a lot, and it like, early on enemies, it seems to be pretty effective anyway. But there's so many times where, like, you'll hit them and you'll be up against a wall, and then the end of the combo, Joel will just, like, slam the guy's face into a wall or, like, into a desk, and, like, it's really brutal. I remember when we saw the Last of Us 2 trailers and we talked about how, like, absolutely brutal the game was. I didn't realize the first game also had that. Like, it's so visceral, some of the
Hmm.
ways that Joel, like, fights these people, but I love it. Like, I love that he uses the environment and it's, like, relevant to where you are. I think in a lot of games, even current games, like, there'll be, like, one obvious, like, table in the room you can interact with and nothing else. Or, like, if you wanna hit them into environment, it's like a separate button prompt you have to choose to do. Whereas the combat in this one, it, like, feels like it naturally just like plays into like Joel's like using everything he can at his disposal because he's in such a trying and like treacherous situation. He doesn't have time to like,
Hmm. Hmm.
be careful or like to think about it. He's just like throwing people left and right into like however he can get them off him.
Yeah, and it's like
So I
desperation too. Like if you were in that
yeah.
situation in the world that he lives in, and you saw a guy who was coming to kill you, and you're like near a bathroom sink or something, like you're damn right you're gonna be slamming his head into that thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like it is, and I think like you said, right, it's desperation really comes through in the character. Like he's not like a war hero or some like amazing soldier. Like he's got combat experience and he can like, take care of himself, but like he's just a guy in a really fucked up and like dangerous place and he's just doing what he can to survive and it comes through really well in like the animation. So while I said that like Ellie can be a little awkward like coming in and out of cover at times and like that's what dates it, the second you're Joel and into the combat sections, like you can tell that they like animated them so thoughtfully and carefully and it isn't just like this is your basic combo for every situation wherever you are like and it looks the same. Like it's really organic. So I think I'm having a blast with this game so far. Like I think it's still worth playing in 2020 or 2021, I guess. Um if you somehow manage to like me miss out on the series.
I
But
got one last question for you about The Last of Us.
mhm.
If you how many generators have you powered, and how many more do you anticipate to power throughout the rest of your playthrough?
It's funny is I've had that in the back of my mind because you mentioned it a couple times. I haven't powered a single generator. So either I'm just like on the cusp of unlocking that revolutionary gameplay, or I've somehow done something horribly wrong and I'm like missing out on the most crucial part of the game. But so far, generator count is 0, but I will start a generator count for next time.
I would like a generator count, please. You know, a part of me
All
is
right.
just curious because I seem to remember so many of them being in there that I just don't actually have an estimate of like how many. Like it's got to be close to like double digits. I feel
Right.
we'll see. I don't
Is it
know.
like is it like Assassin's Creed style, like, gotta do those, like, watchtowers kind
No,
of
it's not
thing?
that.
Like
It's like another mechanic they chose to add in there, I
right.
guess, for some of the puzzles and whatnot to like, you know, power up different doorways and stuff. And it's just another like change of pace thing for when you're not fighting and to do with the puzzles. But I feel like they use it often enough. Like, why are there really these many generators around this place? You know, like, and I guess it's because they're like, you know, living without electricity for the last however many
Right.
years since the zombie outbreak. Like, it makes sense. It's just I don't know, something about the generators just really gets me.
Okay, well, I don't think it's an official statistic in the statistic screen, although they do have a couple funny ones. But I will add it to my own little headcanon, and next time I talk about The Last of Us, maybe partway through, maybe when I finish it, but we will get a generator count. So if you want to take a guess in the meantime,
Yeah,
I would
email
love to
us.
hear your guess. See how close you get in, and you too, James, how close you get into how many
I will.
generators you think are in The Last of Us.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say 10. That'll be
10?
my
Okay.
guess. So lock it in. Lock it in.
We'll see. Okay, well, that is the last I have to say on The Last of Us for now. um, there's one more game I'll hop into. I've been playing, and I know, James, you spoke about this game on episode 4, so this is another one that you're familiar with. But I've hopped in with a couple friends, and we've been playing some Dauntless.
Yes. Nice. Okay.
Um, yeah, so it's cool. It was scratching that kind of like, Monster Hunter's awesome, but it's like $60 game we all have to buy, and like how I don't know how much we're gonna play. So we're gonna play this like free MMO version of it first, see if we get into it, and then maybe buy Monster Hunter. So I played a little bit of it back in 2018 when it was in the beta, and the game still feels relatively similar, but they've added a lot. Like there's some new biomes, some new monsters. Like the quest path is a little bit better at kind of introducing the character to the world. And they've also added in, I think, some more MMO aspects with like,
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much has changed since I last played, because I mean, yeah, I spoke about it on the show quite a while ago now, right? So I haven't really been back to play it that much since then. So I'm sure there's probably a lot of changes in terms of like that kind of thing since I played. But I mean, I found it pretty accessible and easy to get into.
yeah, I agree. I think it's good. I think it teaches you well. Like it's funny because I've got a beta character, so like how the quests progress you is they teach you different things, and like here's like an area that you have to go to first to like try out all the weapons, and then you go to the hub world and it teaches you like how to craft weapons first, and then you have to like learn how to craft armor, and then there's a few weapons that are a little bit more like complicated to make, so it doesn't like give you those right away, or like
Like
it
most of the
gives you
guns too.
them.
The guns are the ones
Yeah,
that usually take a while.
the guns, and there's fists, which are actually new from when I had played, but
Oh,
they're kind
cool.
of like in a different spot in the hub world, and like you craft them slightly differently. So it gives you the like base version if you want to take it out and use it, but it doesn't like let you craft it right away. So my party is like, the base crappy guns, whereas I'm like, well, I made guns back in the beta when I was still allowed. So like
Yeah.
I've got a cool gun, but I'm not allowed to craft them anymore. So there's a couple like funny things like that I've like had from carrying my character over. But I think it's good because like they don't like inundate you with like too much information early. And it kind of like eases you in, like it kind of gives you in like little chunks. You go out and do a mission, slay a couple monsters, come back, and you've unlocked like the next thing you can craft and do, and then you repeat. So it doesn't like inundate you with way too much information at the beginning, and it like gives you a nice like ease of showing you as you go, which I think is really good because I popped into the hub world and I didn't know if I was going to get those quests, and I was like, I don't remember like what I was doing or like where things are, so that was helpful. I mean, like the main reason to play it is the weapons and fighting big monsters, so I think it all holds up really well. Like all the weapons are really unique in this game and have like very clear, distinct like play styles and strengths and weaknesses. Like they all have like different combos to do, like different special moves, and they even like affect things like your combat role. So like there aren't really like class types to be like in a traditional game, like a tank or a healer or whatever. But you just kind of take different weapons and they'll affect like the fastest weapon gives you like instead of a roll, you have this like really good teleport dash,
Yeah,
and
that
then
thing
one
is
heavier.
crazy.
It's so good. Oh my god. And then the like really heavy weapon, I think it's the hammer, and it gives you like kind of like a fat roll a little bit. So like it's kind of nice. It's very much like centered around the weapons. And I
Yeah, and
really like them. I think there's none of them that I dislike. I have a few that are definitely my favorites. There's like these like chain blades, kind of like Kratos style almost, and they let you like pull yourself to an enemy and also like push off of them. So you're kind of like
those
dancing
must
in
be
and
new
out.
too, I think. I've not,
I
yeah, I don't
think
think those
I
existed when I was there.
Oh, okay, interesting. I think they were in the base game. I had crafted them, but
Oh,
maybe
maybe, I
you
mean,
just
I
never
don't
like
know.
made
To be honest, when I played with my friends a little while back, it was literally like we all just picked a weapon and kind of stuck with it.
them.
So, because you want to invest your materials into leveling up a certain tree, right? And I just didn't bother switching around too much, but that sounds like a kick-ass weapon.
Yeah, it is super cool. Like I'm quite impressed with them. Like there, I guess, isn't tons of variety once you've like gotten familiar with all the weapons because crafting a new weapon, which is really cool visually because it's like based on the armor or like all your weapons and armor are based on like whatever creature you craft it from. So you see that coming through. Like the quill one will have like quills sticking out of your weapon, and like
Yeah,
there's
ice
like,
ones,
a fire
fire, all that.
monster. Like yeah, all that cool stuff. So visually they're super cool and they get different properties that are like tactical to know like we're going to go fight an ice monster, so I should bring like my fire weapon I've made. So they're really good in terms of that. They don't actually change how the weapon operates at all. So I could see like adding more weapons I think would be a good idea in the future for the game going forward because like like that's at least for me like what excites me about it is trying out new stuff, and there aren't
Yeah.
really very many options in terms of like gameplay even though they all feel really good and unique.
Yeah, and I think that's
Um,
maybe where you'd get some more out of something like Monster Hunter, which does have a lot more variety and whatnot, like in its weapons. But I mean, I guess that's the difference between buying a premium game and something like Dauntless, which is great for what it does, but it is free, right? And so,
Yeah,
yeah, I kind of feel like
exactly.
that's the bit of the trade off.
Yeah, exactly, and, like, I don't expect, like, a full experience like something like Monster Hunter because, yeah, it's free, it's not a AAA game, and I think it's good at what it does, and also, like, the other things on sale here are, like, the MMO aspects, which I personally don't get super into, but a lot of people do about, like, crafting the best gear and, like, getting like, farming these resources and stuff, and so there's, I think, a lot to do with like, there's a bunch of daily quests and, like, seasonal things, so there's tons of things for people who like those kind of, like, online MMO aspects of a game. But it's just not really something that I get into. So I'm here mostly for the combat and like, the dodge rolling and the
Yeah,
cool
and just
monsters.
hanging out with your friends, right?
And
On
just
something you
yeah,
can all
and
play together.
exactly. Exactly. It's just something good and social. They've upped it. I think when I played it was 3 players in a party, and
Yeah,
now
it's
you
four
can have
now. Yeah.
it's 4 now. But there's 6 in any instance you go into. So we queue up like with 4 people, but we often like run into random people and like, you can like
Wait,
wave to them and
in the hub world,
emote.
right?
In the hub, but also every time you go to like an island where there's like a few monsters to fight, that creates another instance too. So there can be up to 6. So sometimes we run into like 2 random people, sometimes we don't.
Oh, interesting. I didn't do that. I think maybe we played with private parties on though, just so we didn't get that. But
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
yeah,
think it used to be different, or maybe there's an option. But yeah, it's kind of weird though. Is the only thing is like if there's 6 people in an instance on an island, then why can you only queue up 4 in a party?
yeah, right.
It's
Maybe they're
like
encouraging you to meet new people or something. I don't
I
know.
guess so,
That
but
is
it just
weird.
seems, like, really weird and arbitrary, like, it's been fine, I don't think we've, like there hasn't been a situation where it's like, "Oh, sorry, you can't play with us," like, maybe get lucky, but, like, there's definitely gonna be times where it's like, like, I don't wanna play with, like, Chinese Crouton 72, which, like, you were lovely Chinese Crouton 72, like, you were very helpful fighting the monster, but, like, maybe I wanna play with this guy I know, like
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just kind of a strange design choice. But yeah, overall it's fun. I think it's like, great to kind of hop in and just play until you're bored of fighting the same monster over and over again. But I'm interested. I think this is a game I'll hop back in on every like,
It's in
every
the
like
cycle,
year or
right?
so yeah, just every year or so just to see what's new, like fight whatever new monsters they put in and then, forget about it for a little bit. Um,
Cool. Sounds like fun. Well, I, Kate, would like to tell you about a couple games that I've been playing. First of all, I would like to say, just for everyone listening, I bought Hades last night, and I'm completely addicted to it. I played like all afternoon, and I'm probably going to spend a large portion of like my Christmas playing Hades because we can't go out and do anything. So I'm not talking about it on the show today, though. I want to get a lot further before I get into it. But
right.
yeah, I'm playing Hades, loving it. But what I did play the last little bit is I played a little game called HyperDot. It's probably something you've not heard of. It. I just got it on Xbox Game Pass, actually, resubscribing to that. And this is one of those games, like those bullet hell shooters, like Enter the Gungeon, or like there's
Mhm.
tons of different ones. You're just dodging bullets all the time, shooting guys back. It's a game just like that, except take out the shooting and the offense. You're literally just dodging, and so it's like an arcade
Okay.
game. You play as a little circle. It's made by one guy, actually. Tribe Games. I just looked it up. His name is, shout out to Charles McGregor, the owner, founder, and single developer of the game,
Hmm.
over at Tribe Games. So shout out to you, man. Like, you made an awesome game. I love this thing. It's really one of those hidden gems. Maybe it'll come up later. I don't know, on the awards show. But it,
Spoilers.
it's yeah. Well, maybe we'll see. You'll have to listen and find out. But the whole game takes place in a circle, and you play as another circle, which is much smaller within it. And you're basically avoiding a bunch of other shapes that are coming in and out of this arena, and you just have to survive and dodge. And each shape has a different way that it moves around, and it really gets quite complicated in terms of like the different scenarios you're put in. So like I said, you're just dodging and you're listening to some cool music, and there's like, you know, very nice visuals in terms of like different abstract designs and patterns and color schemes and whatnot. So, and every level is so short, you're constantly changing like what the game looks like, similar to maybe like Luminous as a puzzle game as an example. Like it switches every once in a while. So it starts off and you're kind of just avoiding these shapes while you're in this area, and it's pretty basic. And then the game really picks up in a way that I wasn't expecting. There's over 100 different levels in the campaign in terms of, you know, different challenges you're doing, and usually you're just avoiding the incoming shapes that can come from any direction. And then it begins to give you other different objectives too. Like, for example, instead of just avoiding it, the next one will be stay in this area for a certain amount of time. So you not only are you avoiding the shapes then, but there's also another, you know, area like zone that opens up, kind of like a King of the Hill type thing, and you have to stay in that for a certain duration of time while also still avoiding things.
That sounds really cool.
It is, and there's other ones too that come up, like collect these little tokens that appear. So you're dodging things, but also you have to collect like 7 tokens or 12 tokens or whatever. So it really just, there's no time limit. You're just trying to see how, you know, you're trying to do it as fast as you can before you get killed, basically. And they also introduce things like there can be ice on the ground. So instead of just moving around, you'll keep moving in the direction you were last going. So you can't stand still, which, as you can imagine, would make it pretty tough. Like the more objects on the screen you're trying to avoid. And there's also like my favorite little augmentation that they have is some of the levels have darkness, which is like everything is obviously dark, and there's light emanating from the circle which you're controlling. And so you can only see in like this small area around you. And the game casts light. It also gets affected by like the other shapes coming in, so you can see their shadows, and there's this cool 3D effect that kind of happens. And yeah, it's just been a blast to play. I don't know, like one of those games you kind of turn your mind off and get sucked into. You're just staring at this like visually pleasing screen and listening to some cool music, or in my case, a podcast. And it's just one of those games like you'd never expect it. You'd never go in being like, oh, I can't wait to play HyperDot, you know. It's like, you know, I'm really looking forward to this, but
it sounds like
cool.
it's got that like addicting quality where like you initially just like, oh, I've got like 15 minutes to kill, I'll just play like a level or two, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's been an hour, like,
that's my experience. Yeah, that's totally it.
Yeah.
And it does things like the tempo, the musical increase, so you'll move faster on this level, slower on this one. You know, there's pickups you can get which temporarily slow down the shapes coming into your zone, or you can pick up another one that destroys all the shapes near you. And you never stay on one level for so long where you get really, really frustrated by it, because the difficulty, I think, is just perfect. Like the way it scales up and gets challenging. And there's been a few really interesting puzzles that it's taken me a few minutes to figure out exactly how to do it, because they're kind of like curated levels, if that makes sense. Like they're not always random. Like they're very intentionally designed, a lot of them, the way that the shapes come from a certain way, and they make these patterns almost like, you know, those kaleidoscopes, and you're trying to like avoid them. It seems like very, very cool.
You've sold me on it. I am definitely gonna check this out. What it made me think of, and like this might not be like a totally fair comparison, but it reminds me, or like it sounds a little bit to me like some of the Undertale combat, and I don't think that's fair, because like you say there's more like puzzle and like zones and augmentations, and so like it's maybe a little bit more like not necessarily complex, but like a different style within like that sort of genre. But like Undertale's a lot of like, if you choose to be like do the pacifist stuff and then you don't really fight back, like a lot of the monsters attacks are kind of like that bullet hell style, totally, and like you just have to dodge them until like they're done, and each like monster will attack differently. So I'm picturing kind of that, but then like sort of like an artistic take and making that its own game.
You're bang on with that. Yeah, it's exactly like that. And it's got a lot of different modes too. I haven't really checked them out too much, but there's, you know, the besides the campaign, there's the gauntlet mode where you can kind of go through and see how far you make it in one run. And you can also make your own levels also. So I would imagine if you had people to play this with, and you know, had an afternoon where you made some like ridiculous levels and tried to get past them, it would actually be a blast, I think.
Okay, you've sold me. Like this is I'm gonna go check this game out. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's the perfect, it's such an encompassment of Game Pass itself, right? It's like I bought Game Pass for a month because I wanted to check out Monster Train, which is a game kind of like Slay the Spire. And so I was like, I got a bit of time to kill. Let's just randomly click, 2 or 3 different games and download them just to check them out. And so not only have I played Monster Train, I've also beaten Katana Zero and played a bunch of HyperDots. So, I mean, I think I got my
Yeah,
monthly subscription worth.
absolutely. Game Pass is genuinely such a good deal. Like,
It really
I
is.
have
It really
I
is.
haven't personally picked it up just because I've got, like, such a big backlog of games, but, like, I can totally see, like, next time I'm on, like, a school break and, like, I don't really have any, like, big titles lined up, like, I would totally see myself, like, picking it up and just playing through, yeah, like, a bunch of games like that, like, are really great experiences, but you wouldn't necessarily, like, find otherwise
Yeah,
or, like, buy them all individually, so, yeah, that's
exactly. Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, so that's HyperDot. Go check it out. And shout out again to our boy at Tribe Games, Charles McGregor, because you're awesome, man, for making this. But the main thing I've been playing, and I've meant to talk about it before, but we've just been so busy on the show, is I finally picked up Ghost of Tsushima. So Kate, I know you spoke about this back on episode 9. When you first got it, and then again, I think on episode 16 when Legends was released. So we've been
That's
over it a few
right.
times on the show. But yeah, now I've played it, and I have to just get my thoughts out here. So first of all, I don't think it's something that's happened throughout the game as I've been playing, but you know how sometimes games they put a lot of effort into like certain cutscenes to really juice them up and make them look really,
Mhm.
really special. The opening cutscene of this game has the most accentuated sweat I've ever seen on a character. Like,
Does it top NBA, like, 2021 where,
you know
like,
what? It's
Taylor
on
just that
par
sweaty guy?
from the trailer. Yeah, I just had a couple times like there was some cutscenes to start the game where Jin's talking to someone or whatever, and there's just these beads of sweat that are enormous just coming out of his face, and they spawn and kind of roll down, and it just looked like, wow, they really put a lot of emphasis, like this was
Wow,
someone's job making this sweat,
that's so yeah, I spent 3 months on Jin's face sweat.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
know what's funny is, like, I'm sure it was there when I played it, I don't remember it, but I'm gonna chalk this up to, like, this is probably not true, but I'm gonna chalk it up to you're playing on the PS5, and that's what they really enhanced for the game,
Yeah, right.
was the sweat physics, so
Yeah, so I just had to shout that out at the start. But man, I've got to say, like, I'm not an open world player. I don't play like
Mhm,
Assassin's Creed or Days Gone or these big open world games. They usually turn me off because of the
mhm,
how big the world is, how long it takes to travel. There's so much to do. It's like off-putting because I don't want to do any of it. And this game, for some reason, has clicked with me so hard that
mhm.
it's one of the few that I can say is like I'm so about this game and I want to do everything in it and I'm enjoying it and I can't wait to get to the end. It is
Yeah.
fantastic. And I'm surprised as well because I know at the start of when this game launched, there was a lot of questions about like, oh man, the stealth isn't as good as what we would like. The melee is fun, but what about the stealth? And the stealth I don't think it's not great in terms of if you wanted to play this strictly as a stealth game, I feel like you would want some more complexity. But I don't have any issue with how it works. Like, sure, the enemies it's pretty hard to get them to notice you sometimes. Like you probably have a lot of situations where you're like, oh man, they should have seen me, like how did they not notice me there? That kind of thing. And then also when you're assassinating guys from above, sometimes Jin makes these ridiculous angled leaps that you could just never pull off and he'll, land right on top of a guy around a corner or something. But
Yeah.
I mean, for what I'm looking for, like it's tons and tons of fun. And I would like to ask a question too. Like, the talk is always about like melee versus stealth, but no one ever really spoke about the range combat, which I've really been enjoying using all the different bows and like the throwable bombs and stuff. It's like a whole
Mhm.
nother element to the game that I didn't really ever consider because of the debate talking about like range versus stealth when the game first
Yeah,
came out.
exactly. And generally the best way to play and, like, what feels natural to play is just using like, elements from all of those things, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
great, like, going in, you, like, stealth kill an enemy, whip out your bow, kill someone else, and then you melee the rest of the party like, whatever, like, organic version of that you come into with each situation, so I think, like, they work best in tandem, but I agree, I really like the archery in this game. It feels really satisfying and, like, obviously the game isn't built around the bow, but, like, it's very serviceable, I think.
yeah, and pulling off the headshots is very, very like it feels good. Like when you've killed someone in one shot, and it kind of has this satisfying little feeling to it when you hit them in the head. So I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, shout out to that for sure. I mean, the AI is not overly smart, I wouldn't say, especially after playing some other games like you spoke about The Last of Us earlier. Well, The Last of Us 2 has like the smartest AI. And so this is definitely not quite that level, but I mean, that's not what I'm looking for, right? This is something different than
Mhm.
that. And I mean, yeah, there's the weird collision detection stuff. There's some weird glitches that I've ran into to kind of go over some negativity stuff. Like that's the one thing I really think that you have to kind of, make a concession for a game because it is a big open world. Like you're not going to have the same level of polish as you're going to have in something smaller. But I've had a lot of things like, people glitching through walls, and I've been able to assassinate a guy like through a ceiling one time. And
You're a very talented samurai.
yeah, and there's like you can pet your horse, and one time I was petting the horse but he like moved away and I was petting thin air.
Oh,
It's
so
just
sad.
smaller stuff, like those gold birds you have to follow around
Yes.
that'll take you to different areas. Well, I've kind of realized that they don't exactly notice when things are in their way. They just kind of fly in the direction of where they need to go. So I've had a bird get like caught against the side of a house one time, and it just kind of flies in place against the wall and then kind of despawns itself and comes back and tries to lead you again. Just weird stuff like that. And then the funniest glitch, which I'll get into, is how like when you kill all the enemies in an area and then it revitalizes and becomes like a thriving little town or settlement.
Yes.
So I did that one time, and there was a bunch of enemies, and usually they like disappear, and then all the good guys come basically. And one time the enemies did not despawn, so there was a bunch of dead bodies just laying around the city, and there's like this woman inside cooking her dinner just right beside this dead Mongol.
That's so good. Lady's going out to like farm in the morning, and there's
Yeah,
like a dead body beside her little rice crop. Like,
yeah, so that was, I mean, I got a kick out of it, but it is one of those things that kind of broke the immersion for a sec,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah. So, and the other thing I will criticize the game on is, well, it's a blessing and a curse, because there's a lot of different armor sets you pick up and different looks to them, and they gain different abilities. Like, there's the one that makes you less noticeable when you're in stealth, and then there's the one that makes you draw your arrows faster and have more defense or whatever, right? And there's a lot of variety. And the number one that I've been using, and I know the same for you, is just it's called the Adventurer's Garb or something.
Yeah, the one that helps you to like find secrets and things in the world.
Yeah, so it basically lets you uncover a larger area of the map as you walk around, because the rest of the map is kind of a fog of war until you go to each area. And then it also vibrates when there's collectibles near you, which is great. And the thing is that I wish this game did what Spider-Man does, and it would let you equip different armors with the abilities of other armors, because I really like having that on. But I don't want to look like that. Like, there's way cooler armors, and always having to switch back and forth between the armors is a bit of a chore, because I'll be wearing the adventurer's armor, see a battle coming up, I'll switch to my fighting armor, right? And I just wish I could have the abilities of different armors on different ones, so I wasn't always shifting through and
Yeah, it would be nice if there was like a quick, like a way to like quick set a couple different loadouts and then just like toggle them instead of going into the menu every time and like manually changing like hat, armor, like.
Yeah, totally. So that would be nice. I mean, it's not there, whatever. It's not like taking away the game too much, but it's just something that like it's so easily doable, like with Spider-Man and a bunch of other, like Assassin's Creed does the same. And this is something missing from this, in my opinion. But I mean, those are pretty much my only negatives to this game, honestly. Like, it's been a joy to play it, and I want to just tell you, like, Ghost of Tsushima Legends, I arguably like even more than the base game.
Yes, Ghost of Tsushima Legends was like such a surprise, partially in terms of like we just didn't know they were gonna have a multiplayer, and then partially like I didn't expect it to be so like fleshed out and have so many different like modes and like story aspects to it.
It's incredible,
Like,
yeah, and like
it is
the way
really
that it
impressive,
handles,
yeah.
yeah, and the way that it handles teamwork and cooperation is like top notch, in my opinion. I've been playing with a friend of mine, and we're blown away just like the amount of teamwork you have to use. So I'm playing as the archery class, and he's playing as the assassin class. So we don't have a lot of like combat power, and so it's every encounter for us is basically like, okay, we're on the rooftops or we're outside of this fence. How are we gonna get in here? Okay, well, if you sneak over and can stab that guy in the back, then I'll snipe the guy in the guard tower before he sees you. And just like these like teamwork interactions that you have to play that way. Like, it's not set up where you can just go and run through the mission by yourself in combat, regardless of your class, or like if you're playing as a party, like you can't just go do it by yourself. Like, you really, really need to work together in a way that a lot of games don't. Like, they want you to play like that, but you don't really have to. And in Legends, I feel like you really do. Otherwise, you're going to lose. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think how far have you made it in the single player? Because there's one mission in particular I think I spoke about on episode, I think 16 you said, where I talked
Yeah.
about Legends, where there's that one where, like, there's the enemies that are chained together, so you can't
Yes. Yeah,
when
yeah.
you kill one, if you don't kill them both at the same time, then the other one will, like, come back to life, like, their souls or whatever it is tied together, and, like, that level to me, like, I think all the levels are set up fantastically for teamwork, but that one in particular is, like, it's so crucial, like, you literally can't do it otherwise
Yeah.
without 2 people, and it's, like, the teamwork it encourages you to do, and I even played it with, like, a random person, and we were, like, so in sync, it was such a good, like, social moment, even though, like, like, you're coming up with someone you don't know, and, like, we weren't talking, but it was just such an intuitive, like, we knew what the game wanted from us, and we executed it so well. Like, it is very, very well constructed. Like, normally, I don't touch the multiplayer on these, like, single player games, because I feel like a lot of times they're just sort of, like, thrown in as, like, a checkbox almost. Like, we
Mhm,
need
mhm.
multiplayer, and, like, The Last of Us has a multiplayer mode, like, I probably won't check it out just because, like, maybe not a lot of people are playing it anyway, but also, like, it just seems like a weird game to have, like, a multiplayer
Yeah.
aspect to it. But, like, Ghost of Tsushima's, it's like it could honestly be, like, its own little game, really.
It basically is, I feel. And yeah, so we've beaten every single two-player co-op mission. We beat the whole story, and now we're going back and we played the first couple on the increased difficulty. And it gets tough, man. Like, with when you get into those attunements and having to use, attune your blade with fire damage so it does more damage to the fire attuned enemies and
Yes,
whatnot. Like, it gets really complicated. And yeah, you should level your character up because we need more players for the horde modes.
I will, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, get into it. But I've just been like having a blast. The last thing I'll say about it, just going back to the main story campaign, is I don't want to speak too much on it because of I'm not finished. I'm probably about halfway through the game right now, so I will give like my last impressions of the story once I beat it. But I just feel like Jin has a little bit of a confusion about his priorities when it comes to, like, you know being a stealthy assassin as opposed to just a samurai. Like, he's been taught his whole life, like, samurais are honorable, they look each other in the eye when they kill each other, and we
Mhm.
don't, stab each other in the back. And then obviously you become a bit of an assassin as well because of the influence of, I think, Lady Masako, right, the other
Yes,
character, or
it
whoever it is.
kind of, like, takes you down that darker path to kind of, like, instead of, like, always do the right thing, it's now kind of like, means justify the ends sort of philosophy
Yeah,
for
yeah,
her.
yeah. And
That
I know, like, he struggles. The game very much wants you to see Jen struggling with, like, oh man, am I doing the right thing? Disappointing my master and doing these backstabs. But he just doesn't seem to actually care that much, And I think part of it's because you can do a lot of the side quests out of order. So maybe if you followed, like, the main pathway of the game, you'd be kind of progressing in a way where he slowly does become more okay with it. But I've had a few scenes where it's like Jen's having a flashback and it's like, don't stab guys in the back, we have respect. And then the next cutscene with like a side character, he's like, okay, hold on, you wait here, I'm just gonna go clear these guys out, then you can come inside. And like, as if he's planning to stab them all in the back. And then you
Mhm.
get to the next mission with that character, and he reminds her that they have to go quietly so that they can kill people without being seen. And it just seems like he's come around on the fact that he's now an assassin with little respect for a lot of his opponents, like, very, very quickly. And so I don't
Yeah.
know how I feel about that,
I
but
feel like that's kind of like a trap of, like, this open world style of the game. Like, it would have been a lot more easy for them to manipulate when those moments happen if it was, like, just like a normal RPG where you kinda like a Last of Us sort of style where where you follow this one path, and, like, those are the best for character moments because you can manipulate exactly when they happen. Whereas, like,
mhm,
an open world, it's like, yeah, you might do, like, 50 side quests before you even do, like, the 8th story mission, and
mhm,
so, you've kind of been playing a certain way, and also, like, some people, like, don't really touch the stealth assassin and, like, spec into just straight up combat, and then, some people do, like, a flip, so, like, those moments are gonna hit different depending on, like, the idea you've made of Jin in your head based on how you're playing. So I think, like, it is kind of a shame, like, it would be nice if maybe they had, like, tailored it to sort of go a certain way, like, maybe the game opens up after doing more story missions instead of opening up very quickly, so they can get that progression in for Jin a little bit. I think overall, like, I like Jin a lot as a character, and I think he's sort of like a breath of fresh air in terms of, like, he's not a gritty hero, which we saw for
Yeah.
so long, like a gritty dark anti-hero who's like, I'm tough, but like I am still a good guy. Whereas like Jin's like, he's very like, my honor is everything, and like I'm trying to be a good person, and like, I'm sort of being like coerced into doing these darker things because of good reasons. And I like Jin a lot, but I think you're right. You need to like suspension of belief a little bit, or like intentionally role play him a certain way to like fit exactly the way like the game kind of wants to portray him.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's sort of like the story and gameplay disconnect a little bit, but I think like
It's such a
overall,
minor gripe though, right? Because the game
yeah,
is so much fun to play. Like the combat's great. Getting into those standoffs where you slice guys up before you start fighting is
it's
always
so.
like such a joy,
I
right?
don't.
And
I don't think I'll ever get tired of the standoffs. Like
oh,
they're
me either.
so badass.
Yeah, they're cool. But anyway, I'll probably talk about this one more time once I beat it. Just to talk about the end of the story and whatever. But Ghost of Tsushima, like this could easily be game of the year for me, and I wouldn't really be complaining too much. Like I don't. We'll get into it. I guess the Circles and Squares awards are coming up very shortly. But like this is right near the top of the list for me. It's awesome, and I'm blown away by it. But that'll do us, I think, for what we've been playing. So stay tuned after the break, where we will give away our Circles and Squares awards for games we've played this year. Do not go anywhere. All right, everyone, welcome back to the show, and welcome to the first ever Circles and Squares Awards. It takes place on 2021. That's a good year to start off. And we have decided to celebrate the games we've played this year, which has been a lot of games. We made up some special awards to give out to the stuff that we liked the most throughout the year. So we have 7 different awards here. Kate, do you want to just tell people what they are quick as a rundown?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just preface as well by saying these awards are for games we played in 2020, not games that came out in 2020. I think it's just a little bit more interesting for us personally because like we only played so many recent games, and we've gone through so many great things on the show and just in our own lives. So
well, and also
the game,
like just because the game didn't come out this year doesn't mean it didn't do something for you in 2020. So it should count in my opinion.
exactly. So these are kind of like our personal 2020 games awards. So we've got the most surprising game for a game that was either far better or far worse than your initial expectations. The best co-op for the best cooperative experience, be it couch co-op or online. The funniest game for the game that demonstrates the highest level of comedic genius. We have one of my favorite categories, actually, the best PS Plus game for the best offering available on PS Plus in 2020.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really Circles and Squares like award for us, just because we make a deal, like a point of going over all the PS Plus games. So I like that one too.
Exactly. It was kind of cute. We've got the other one I really like is the best comfort food for the perfect game to curl up and relax with. Then we have best new mechanic for the best new or unique use of a mechanic in a game. And then finally, of course, we have to end it out with the Circles and Squares Game of the Year award, the best game played this year in terms of overall production quality and, of course, enjoyment.
All right.
So James, why don't you start us off and let us know what was your most surprising game for 2020?
Oh, God, you know what? This was like one of the hardest ones for me to think of.
This was also the last one I nailed down in terms of like, what my final lock-ins for the award show.
Well, I would like to specifically say that there's a lot of games that surprised me this year. I mean, like I just said, I was blown away in the first part of the show by HyperDot. But I don't know. I feel like it wasn't the answer for me here. And just to say too, before I tell you my game, we're planning to give you like the quick 2 to 3 minute hit on the game, just to talk a little bit about it. But please go back if we've spoken about it on a previous show and listen to like what we had to say, because I think we've obviously picked some pretty special games here, and we'd like to, if you want to hear more about our thoughts, like go and listen to that. But for most surprising game, I put on for Astro's Playroom is my answer here, and I was really blown away by Astro, just because, I mean, I don't see how anyone really could have had very high expectations for it, because it is like it was the pack-in tech demo type of game, and I know a lot of people were saying like, oh, it's more than just a demonstration of the controller, and that couldn't have been more true. Like, this game was so beautifully crafted with a level of detail in terms of like encapsulating PlayStation history and the big games on the console, and you know, it just its whole time over the since its birth, you know, as a brand. So I really appreciated that. And yes, it did demonstrate the DualSense controller super well, also, like all the different features and the haptics and the rumble and everything. It just was this perfect package, and I expected to like this game, as we're big Astrobot fans here on this podcast, but
Of
but
course.
I mean, this game really took it to a degree that I wasn't expecting, and so I would say that it was far better than my expectations, and I would like to give my most surprising game award to Astro's Playroom.
Aw, congratulations, Astro. I think that's a great answer. I didn't consider Astro, but that's wonderful, and I share your sentiments. What I went with it actually, and we've kind of talked to death this game on this episode, but I put Ghost of Tsushima for my most surprising game. I bought it on release, and I was expecting it to be good. But I didn't expect to love it and to get as immersed as I was. Like, going into it, like, the big things were like, yeah, this game's gorgeous. It's going to just be a nice world to be in. But I got compared a lot to like Assassin's Creed and those games, which like I just don't find extremely compelling. But I think the game blew me away. Like, a lot of the game's strengths are very subtle, and it's like sound design and the way the game feels, and so the nuances of the combat, which don't really come through in just watching like a trailer of the game. So actually sitting down with it was a lot more of a stronger experience than I expected. And then also, as we discussed earlier, like the co-op getting dropped out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
enhanced the game as well. So I wanted to give it to Ghost of Tsushima. I think like it deserved its game of the year, like 2020 contention, and I think it's a fantastic game. I'm super excited to actually sit down and finish.
Nice. Okay. I like that answer too. I was thinking about Legends, like, specifically as its
Yeah.
own surprise, but it's a good answer.
But
Kate, I would like to ask you for our second award. What
mhm.
is your favorite co-op game from 2020?
This was the first one I answered, my easiest answer for this show. It is Divinity Original Sin 2. So I spoke about this game like back like on one of our first couple episodes, like 2 and 3, and like I played it early in the year. I think I actually started it in 2019 and finished it in like April of 2020 or something. But it has stuck with me this entire time. So I played it with my boyfriend. We went through the whole campaign. It's totally co-op, couch co-op together. And every single time we sat down to play this, there was memorable moments that were happening. And like I can just think off the top of my head of so many like funny little things that either happened in game or like we made like a head canon for, because there's just so much like information and things. So we would play it for like hours at a time, and then after we were done, we'd sit around for like another hour and talk about like speculating on things in the world or like different ideas for like builds for our characters. So this game is like, I think it's such a good game. It's worth playing on its own. It doesn't have to be co-op, but it is so good to play together because you can make such creative use of like the battles and making a team. But it's also so much like, it's so story driven, and there's so many decisions. Every time we talk to a character, we'd actually like, okay, we are like gonna think very hard about like which dialogue answer we want to give, because it's gonna change how that person responds to us. And then you come up against a quest and we have like 5 different ways that we can complete it. Are we gonna brute force it? Are we gonna like
Yeah.
try to lie our way through, or like are we gonna try to like charm them? Are we gonna sneak around? Like, there's so many different things, and it was such a perfect like blend of like, like, what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? And like it was, and on top of that, it was absolutely hilarious, some of the things that we got up to, and that happened. So by far, if you have like someone that you want an excuse to spend 108 hours with, which was what I think we clocked in at, play this game. It is an absolute masterpiece.
Okay, well, for my co-op award, we're gonna bring up Ghost of Tsushima again, because to me this
Right.
has to be Ghost of Tsushima Legends here. Just I mean, I spoke about it earlier, right? Just the requirement of like being tactical
Mhm.
and working together and using your character advantages. Like, we played, like I said, as the archer and the assassin, but imagine how much different our strategies would be if we were the samurai and the ronin, and having to have very little ranged options and very much more like close hand-to-hand combat. But then we'd also have healing. which is something we lack with our current build. So just the level of customization and care, and especially because if you buy Ghost of Tsushima Legends, you're technically also buying Ghost of Tsushima, so you get this whole full
Right.
humongous great campaign. I just can't say enough good things about it, and I'm going to leave it at that just because you can listen to the start of the show if you'd like to hear more. So, Kate, maybe we'll move along to the next award, which is the funniest game. And for this one, if you don't mind me going first, um,
Absolutely.
this one I had a bit of a struggle with to think of as well because humor in games is tough, right? I think we've spoke about that before, and just how it's a lot of times it's like that silly like look how random that is humor, which doesn't
Mhm.
always hit, like Bug Snacks.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
and so
like
for me, I had a difficult time until I remembered I was looking through my list of games that I've played and beaten this year, and I played South Park Fractured But Whole this year, Kate. That game,
okay.
it's a South Park game. It's so funny, and I remember laughing out loud at this game when I was playing it. Just like some of the side conversations. I know South Park is not for everybody, and so a lot of people probably wouldn't enjoy it so much. But for me, like I enjoy South Park in small doses, and this game was hilarious. Like just some of the side conversations. You'll walk into your house, and you're one of the kids in the neighborhood, and the parents are having this like outrageous fight, like yelling at each other and cursing and like getting into each other's personal details, and then you'll walk into the house and they'll be like, oh hi Angel, good to see you, dinner's on the table, haha, and like so happy. Just like Cartman as a character is funny, and the different enemy types are just different factions of kids around the neighborhood. So you'll have the teenagers or the cheerleaders, and they're hyperbolic of like what people in those subgroups would be like, and it's just in a really funny way. And as long as you kind of don't get offended by South Park, which I know it is very offensive, and like there's even a few jokes in there that I was thinking probably shouldn't be said around, especially like in 2020 with all the social justice stuff going on, and they probably need to amend a little bit of that, and but it's not the focus of the game, and there's not too much, and overall like just South Park to me is very very well written, and this game is no exception to that. There's just a ton of different story moments and whatnot, just little side comments by characters, and Timmy and all those characters. They're just really funny, so I would give it to South Park for me.
Well, that's awesome. That's surprising to me. I didn't. I just. I forgot that you played that game in general, and then also like
Well,
it
so
just.
did
I
I.
wouldn't. I wouldn't have pegged that game for you, but I know it's like considered very
It's
very good
excellent,
game.
honestly. Like quick shout out, if you like turn-based RPGs, especially like in the Mega Man Battle Network style in terms of like grid-based combat, if you can get
Mhm.
past South Park and it's not that much of a turnoff for you, like please play this, especially since they're reasonably cheap now, like Fractured But Whole and whatever the first one's called, Stick of Truth. Like they're pretty old now.
Mhm.
You can get them on sale, and I would say check them out because they're good RPGs despite like being
Yeah,
a
I
licensed property.
I remember being surprised that they were, like, making game of the year lists when for people when they came out because, it just seemed like sort of like yeah, like, you don't ever expect, like, the TV show game to actually be good, let alone, like, something that's kind of, like, divisive like South Park, but
Hmm.
that's awesome. I like your answer, I like my answer better, and I think you're also gonna like my answer better, because this year, I've been running through the Danganronpa games.
You know what's
Which
funny?
I
I played
know.
two Danganronpa games this year also, and I didn't include them,
Oh,
but
didn't
they are
include them.
funny though. They are funny.
Yeah, they are very funny, and I think they're being enhanced a little bit. I played the first one, by myself, but I've been playing and I finished 2, and now I'm partway into 3, but I've been playing them with a friend, and he's already beaten them, but he's, like, having fun kind of reliving them, with me, so we've been playing them together, and so I think that's kind of enhancing it because, like, we're kind of, like, talking at the same time, and he's, like, having me guess who I think is, like, gonna be the killer, and, like, also, like, all the characters have, like they're the ultimate something, and a lot of their ultimate talents are, like, bizarre and ridiculous. So, like, before we started number 3, I, like, went through all the characters just based on their art on, like, the cover of the game and, like, picked out what ultimate I think they were,
Yeah,
and, like, some were
you'll
kinda
never get them
close.
right.
Yeah, some were kinda close and some were, like, bizarre and really out there, but some were, like, like, close enough that he found it really funny, so I think that's outside of the game enhancing, like, how much I'm laughing about it. But generally, the games are really funny, like, they've got that blend, like, I guess kind of, like, similar to, like, a Yakuza sort of thing where, like, the content is really serious, like, it's this horrible, like, murder like, Saw style kind of murder game that the characters are put into, and, like, at the beginning, they're, like, in disbelief, like, "There's no way someone will ever murder, like, why would we do that?" And then, obviously, like, the
And then
murders end.
bam.
And then, like, so it's really dark and they're, like, constantly, like, thinking about, like, how they feel and like the morality of the situation. But it's also like absolutely ridiculous kind of like over the top humor, and so that blend of like dark but comedy is done really well in the games. And like not every joke hits because sometimes like Monokuma will say something weird, or like there's kind of a lot of like
It's like that
Jack
weird sexual Japanese humor
yeah,
sometimes.
there's some of the, like, the weird sexual humor, which, doesn't get me quite as much, but, like, there's genuinely, like, I laugh every time I play this game. And so all 3 have sort of, like, blended together as Danganronpa because, like, you kinda can't really play one without playing the others. But
Hmm.
I would give this award specifically to number 2, for the reason that there is a character in this game that has there's like a mystery, and you are, or at least for me, I was so invested in uncovering this mystery into, and they string you along all game for it, and then it turns out to just be like no payoff, and like they've just dicked you around. And the fact that they committed to it for all game, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
fact that they dick you around all game for it, and then there's this like hilarious reveal at the end, like I laugh every time I think about it. And like that Danganronpa 2 moment is the funniest thing that's happened all series long for me. So, I love these games, I can't wait to finish. I don't think I've talked about them on the show, I'm gonna wait till I finish 3 and then kind of do them all
Yeah,
together.
that's smart. That's smart.
But, oh
Cool.
my god, if you're into, like, yeah, just weird, like, if you played Yakuza, maybe is kind of like the most similar atmosphere I can think of, but, like, they're bizarre and wonderful.
Love it.
Uh, but, getting off of Danganronpa, James, how about you tell me what your best PS Plus game was?
Okay, yeah. So PS Plus, man, we played a lot of games on PS Plus this year. Hey, just like going back and thinking, we played, since the show came out, we played almost every single PS Plus offering, except for the months where there was like more than one. So we
Mhm.
have, or more than two, I should say, more than one each.
More than one
So
each.
we played a lot of PS Plus games this year, and I would be shamefully upset at myself if I didn't give this to Hollow Knight Void Heart.
Yes,
Um,
thank you.
Now, I just want to
Thank
say, like,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. There's been some really, really high, quality PlayStation first party titles offered this year, namely Uncharted 4 and also the Uncharted Collection, were both offered. And I toyed with giving it to those games. And the more I've thought about it, and the more that I've played Last of Us 2 specifically, I just kind of soured on Uncharted a little bit. Not that I don't like it, but I don't know. I don't know. I think Hollow Knight is maybe the better game, honestly. And I just think Void Heart in specific is an amazing package. Like, you get all the DLC with it, and Hollow Knight's always, just one of those games that's always in consideration as like the best, side scrolling challenging platformer or Souls like game that's not actually a Souls game. And
Mhm.
I really, really understand where people are coming from now after playing it. I still think personally I prefer Ori
Right.
to Hollow Knight as a package, as I said before, but Hollow Knight is just an undeniably well crafted game, whether or not you think it's like your personal choice in terms of like a game like this. But I've really enjoyed going through it. I haven't played too much since I spoke about it on the show, just because I got the PS5 and been playing newer stuff. But I do intend to go back and play some more. And I understand your love for Hollow Knight now, Kate. So that is my best PS Plus game of the year.
Oh, good. You just made me so happy because I wanted to put Hollow Knight on this so badly, but at the end of the day, I didn't because I didn't play it in 2020, so that kind of like shoots it in the foot already. But I also wanted to pick one of the games I took for our PS Plus challenge because I thought that was kind of like
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
fun way to go through like all the games that I personally had played like for the show specifically. But I'm glad you picked Hollow Knight because I wanted to get its shout out. But I actually went with like a surprising pick, and I picked Erica for my game,
Oh,
which
nice.
is
Okay.
yeah, it was a like FMV kind of like choose your own adventure sort of
Yeah, with
game
the
that like
phone app.
played on the phone app and like had little like things you had to swipe and like to open like a box you had to like like
Yeah, swipe
swipe
up or whatever.
and like to turn a crank you like to do circles on your phone. And I don't think like the game was like incredible, like, I would want to play, like, if it had a sequel, but it was just a really, like, different experience, that I've never played anything quite like it in terms of, like, the FMV and then also, the with the phone app companion. I think it worked really well, and like we just had a really fun night playing it, and it was sort of a memorable experience. And I think a lot of the PS Plus games I picked were games that like just weren't really my thing, or were games that I wouldn't necessarily have like necessarily play. But Erica was the one that kind of like stood out to me as in like, I had more fun with it than just like I played a couple hours like obligation for the show. So I think Erica's kind of neat. Like if you never picked it up, I say it's like worth it. It's like an hour and a half. It doesn't overstay its welcome,
It's like
and
watching a
it's just
movie for
it's
the evening, you know.
yeah,
It's great for
exactly. It
that.
sort of fulfills that kind of like relax, watch a movie, but it's just a little bit more interactive, and it's a good social experience too. So
Nice choice. I like Erica though. I think that's a good shout, and it's one of those ones that wouldn't immediately jump off the list,
mhm.
but it's like definitely a good shout out for people that like want a specific thing, you know, like an evening of entertainment with maybe some other people watching and playing with you or something. Yeah,
Mhm.
nice. Okay, Kate. So our next award up is best comfort food game, and this is one of the ones you suggested. So I'm very interested to see who wins this for you.
I mean, it's funny. I suggested it because in my head I was thinking about it in a certain way. There's a lot of times where, like, especially like you got an hour before I want to go to bed, and I'm just relaxing in the evening, that I'll like watch YouTube or like a TV show, and then I'll play a game at the same time. Just something kind of relaxing that I don't necessarily need to give my full attention to. And I kind of like do simultaneously with something else. So that's how I pictured it in my mind. And I didn't end up picking a game I do that with. So it's kind of weird. Initially, I wanted to give this to Animal Crossing,
Hmm.
because like that to me is like the whole design purpose of that game. But I just found that Animal Crossing wasn't relaxing for me with this iteration.
Oh
And
my
I,
god, I have to get all my awards done, or like sorry, my fishing done before the season changes.
right, like yeah, I found there was just maybe too much to do in comparison to like, the Animal Crossing I'm most familiar with, which was way back on the GameCube.
Hmm.
And, like it was so limited, like you had a certain amount of things you could do in a day, and, you'd exhaust that. And then you'd spend most of your playtime just going around talking to villagers, seeing if they want you to like deliver a shirt to some other villager that, like, honestly, like they're not fucking far. You just can't be bothered to do it.
Just fucking find them yourself, okay?
You're so lazy. Like, what are you doing? You've been walking around with a watering can for the last 2 hours. I've seen you. You haven't watered a single flower, but um,
It's funny. I was gonna give this to Animal Crossing as well, and I didn't end up picking that. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but the new one has, like, so much crafting, and there's so many things that it, like, wants you to do, and it wants you to, like, log in every day to, like, keep a streak going, and it asks kind of a lot of you, and I just didn't find it relaxing. I felt like it was almost like I felt obligated to go play it every day, and I
yeah.
couldn't in all good consciousness give it to it. So instead, my really weird answer for this is actually Heroes of the Storm.
No, that
That
that makes sense. I get it.
that, yeah, the, like, Dota or, like, League style game that we've been playing, and I got into it this year, playing with friends, and it sounds funny to pick for this because it's a very involved game. Like, it's, like, action all the time, and, you're queuing up for games, but like, fighting all the time, and, like, it's, like, a high, like, skill expression game. But my group plays it as kind of, like, something that, like, we just wanna do something, we don't know exactly what that is, and so we just sort of, like, use it as, like, a chill, like, hangout game,
It's
I
like how a
guess.
lot
So
of people use Fortnite,
yeah,
basically.
exactly, and, yeah, a lot of the time we play it's in the evening where it's, like, like, we'll play, like, a few hours before people end up going to bed, and, like, we'll joke around and not take it too seriously, and, like, pick funny characters and whatnot. So I think, like, that it's fulfilling the comfort in a way that I didn't expect to fill this category, but it really is just sort of, yeah, our chill go-to.
It's a good answer though.
Mm,
So mine is a bit more chill than that, I think, just because it kind of moves at your own pace. Like,
mhm.
I would imagine one thing with Heroes of the Storm is like you can't really get up from your computer when you're playing it because you're in the
No,
middle of a
absolutely,
match, right? And so
absolutely.
to me, like, I don't know, that's not relaxing to me, but I understand your sentiment. I get it.
Yeah,
That makes sense. For me, I put Slay the Spire is mine, just
yes,
because that game, it just fits like a freaking comfy sweater or something, you know? Like you know you're gonna get have a
yep.
good time when you play Slay the Spire. You can kind of sit on the couch, you can, have a nice warm hot chocolate or something with you, and you can play Slay the Spire. Like it's endlessly replayable. It's I've played it so damn much that I understand the mechanics without having to be like too, invested in paying a ton of attention. Like you just do your run, you get out. It's a great game. It's just one of those ones you're going to have a good time, and it's great because you can sit down, you can set aside half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe an hour depending how far you make it. Go through, see if you win. If you don't, then I'll try and win next time. But it's just one of those games you can come back to no matter what, and you're going to have a good time. And I'll tell you, at the start of the lockdown, when we were doing the isolation thing at home for a couple weeks, we destroyed Slay the Spire. We played so much, and it was comforting at that time. And it got us through a really tough period of the year, I think, where we couldn't really get out and do much. So yeah, Slay the Spire is an easy one for me here.
That is a fantastic answer. And honestly, when I pitched this one for comfort game, and I talk about having like a show and another game going on, Slay the Spire was exactly the game I was envisioning. I couldn't pick it because I didn't play in 2020, but that's exactly like the game that inspired comfort food. So I'm glad you picked it. It's kind of
it's great,
very poetic.
It's great. And to say one more thing about Slay the Spire, I'm going to be talking probably about Monster Train on our next episode, which is sort of like that. So pay attention.
All right, little tease for you. But we're not quite done with this one. We got 2 more awards to give out. So James, tell me, what is your best new mechanic?
So this one was tough for me because I feel like there's probably so many mechanics that I've forgotten about over. I've beaten like 34 games this year, and I've also played like a bunch of others, multiplayer stuff that I've not added to my beaten list because you can't beat it, or games I've checked out here and there. So this was tough, and I'm probably forgetting a really cool mechanic that I ran into at some point. But the best thing that came to my head for this is I don't think it's necessarily new, but it's just a very unique use of mechanics, and that is Star Wars Squadrons, the ship controls, and the amount of customization and different things you can do in your fighter as you're playing is just ridiculous to me. And I said on the episode, and I probably stand by it, that is, for someone that has played a lot of flight sims, you may not have the same opinion, but for me, like, I'm very new to that genre, and the degree to which you can, like, okay, I'm gonna divert power from my thrusters because I don't need to fly very fast right now, so I can make my guns stronger. Or I got a shield around my ship, but I'm gonna make it so the shield is only on the front because I'm flying towards the enemies, so my shield is off on the back and double strength at the front. Like, the level to which you can customize your ship and how it's operating, and then make them work in tandem to win whatever situation you're in is mechanically so interesting to me. And I wish I had like the PSVR and the flight setup and all those different accessories to play with, because I feel like in that situation, especially if I had people to play with, like, this would be one of my go-to games. And it's largely just to do with how those mechanics interact and play with each other in the game. So I'm just blown away by it, and I'm happy to give my best new mechanic award to Star Wars Squadrons.
That's awesome. And imagine if you had the VR version. Oh boy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I would love to play that someday. Like, that is such a cool thing to me.
That's awesome. I like that. That's a good kind of like niche pick.
Yeah.
For mine, I kind of went with some bigger games. I want to give a shout out to God of War's over the shoulder camera. I finished God of War this year. It was amazing, and I think that camera is something I'd never seen before, and the game was so fluid, and I think it was such a smart, like, way that they built the game around it. But
I bet you a lot of games will have that going forward.
Yes,
like copycatting.
I hope so. I think it's really, really cool. But I want to give this to you, and it's kind of funny, but I want to give this to the Demon Souls remake. And I know it's kind of weird because this game came out in 2013 originally, but whatever. I'm playing it for the first time now. And
that surely encompasses, like, that game doesn't have to come out in 2020. Well, we're giving an award to Demon Souls.
Exactly. And like, they've iterated on this system, going forward. But I think, like, and we're kind of used to it, but the invading and the online mechanics that they made for this game is incredible. Like, the way that you invade other people's games as a player, and that you can also, like, pull them in to help your world, is so cool. Like, we're used to it with, like, Dark Souls is so big, and Bloodborne had it, and so, like, we're used to those kind of mechanics now, but, like, just going back and looking at them, it is so unique, and no other game has done it quite like how the Souls do. And Demon Souls was the first one. That's where it came from. Even just running around, if you don't want to actively, like, work with other people or work against other people, I suppose. Like there's all the note systems where you leave. So there you're constantly running around and like looking, you can see notes people have left with like either like jokes or like hints about something that's coming up in the game. I think the other thing that stands out to me a lot is it's not just thrown in as having an online like a multiplayer aspect. It's worked into like the lore of the world. So these things are justified. Like there's a reason for why you're seeing other people in your game. It isn't just for the player or like for a gameplay purpose. It's actually worked into like making sense and being justified within the world and the lore of the game. So I think that system in general is amazing, but Demon Souls took it a step further, which I think they didn't do again until Dark Souls 3. Maybe Dark Souls 2. That's the one I haven't played, so there's a gap in my knowledge, but Demon Souls did it first, and it has a boss in the game that actually is another player.
Oh, no
So
kidding. That's so cool.
it is so cool. Like one of the bosses, what happens is whenever you're doing an online, whether it be you're trying to get summoned in for someone to help someone in their game or you're trying to invade or any kind of like online, if you're doing it within a certain radius of this boss fight, you have a chance of actually summoning in and being the boss. So
Holy shit, that's so cool.
you like wait, and I did this the other night. It was really funny. I was actually trying to help someone with the boss before this one, but the radius was just so big that every now and again in the middle of like getting pulled in to help this person, I would get pulled into this like boss fight instead. And so it's really cool. Like you show up and you just stand there and you wait in the boss arena and like there's like the fog gate that the player goes through and you just stand there and you wait for them to show up. And it is so cool. Like it's very obvious when you go to play it that it's another person. And it gives you like this massive boss health bar you don't normally have. And it also like gives you some of this like magic spell that you I think you can get it in game normally, but like you just auto have it like going off every now and again. So like you feel kind of cool, like you're this like big tough challenge, but at the same time it's like, oh, good luck to this player. I hope they win. Like it's such a cool idea for a boss, and like it's so fun both ways, either being the boss or like as the player like going up against this challenge, and like you don't know when it's going to happen right away. It's just like all of a sudden like this person's invaded your game and you're like think they're just an invader. It's like, oh shit, like they're coming to get me. And then you go up the stairs and it's like, oh my god, no, they're the boss. Like it's so cool.
That's awesome. I like that. That's
Yeah.
a good answer.
So
For
like
sure.
not only is their like online system unique in general, then they like used it in this like such a creative, unique way. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
got to be
Wow.
Demon Souls.
Nice.
I'm shouting it out.
Quite an answer. Yeah, you're doing a whole segment on it.
Yeah, sorry, I'll stop. All right, let's get past that. And I promise no more Demon Souls for this episode. Next episode, you might not be safe. But James, tell me, after all of this and all of the wonderful games we've talked about, what is your definitive game of the year?
Well, Kate, anyone that knows me and knows what I've been playing this year should be able to pick out what my game of the year is. And it's no shock that my Circles and Squares first annual Game of the Year award winner is dun, 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 Persona 5 The Royal, baby.
Hey, we made it.
This is the best game I've ever played. My favorite game of all time, Persona 5. This is the Royal, of course. I've actually like to admit that I haven't even beaten this yet. I've been slow burning it over the last little while, but I have the authority to say this is my favorite game of the year and ever, because it's just an improvement on my previous favorite game, which is the original Persona 5. So I don't know what to say about this. Like just the dynamic of meeting all the different characters and spending your time with them, and investigating the dungeons and using the battle system, which is to me like one of the best turn-based systems, and fighting enemies with your weakness, and all the just the different things they've added in to refine the combat, and as well as adding in a whole nother 20 plus hours of story sections, and different dialogue trees with different characters, and it's just such a complete package. I can't find a flaw with it, man. Like you could say sometimes it's a little long-winded in its story, or I don't even know what other criticisms people would give it, to be honest. It's just, I love this game. Something about it, and the style and the music and just
so
the way it looks.
stylish.
It is unparalleled in my opinion in terms of just its world and the appearance and the music and just the way it all syncs together. I couldn't imagine awarding this to anything else. Like, sure, I consider The Last of Us 2, which I also really, really enjoyed. And in any other year, I think The Last of Us 2 probably would have won my Game of the Year award. But or if we were talking about games that came out this year, it would have for sure won that also, because the Royal came out in the end of 2019. But
Right.
I mean, this for our circumstances here, and like not not worrying about release year, like P5R will never be beaten for me, at least maybe until Persona 6. So yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to you, Persona 5 the Royal. Kate, I can't wait for you to play this one day,
That is
hopefully.
wonderful. It is, and that's a testament to how much I love Persona 5 as well. It's like it's not a short game. I think I clocked in like 120 hours for finishing P5, which is like one of the longest games I've ever played,
Oh
and
yeah,
actually
me too.
stuck through to the end. And I am still have the desire to play Royal, even though it's sort of like a lot of the same like there's new stuff, but it's a lot of the same content for like
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm
majority.
pretty far into the new stuff now also,
Mhm.
which is like largely tacked on to the end of the game, and although it's weaved throughout the game also, but like
Yeah.
the new stuff largely is tacked on the end, and man, it's so worth getting to it. It's really really cool,
Yeah,
and
exactly. I
yeah.
think that's a testament to how good 5 was just as a game because, like, I'm still interested in playing Royal even though I've spent so much time, like, kind of in the world of Persona 5, so
Hmm, hmm.
it's definitely something I wanna get to, but I haven't played it yet, so it's not in contention for my Game of the Year
Yeah, what's
award.
your game of the year, Kate? I'd like to know.
So yeah, my Game of the Year, is I'm gonna give it to Divinity
Ooh, you know
Original
what? I kind of had a
Sin.
suspicion this was gonna be your winner.
Yeah. As much as everyone probably expected to be Demon Souls and to get the FromSoft shout out, I'm giving it to Divinity. I think it's just an absolute masterpiece. Every single aspect of the game, be it the story, the character design, the world, the exploration, the combat, every single bit of it could stand as just the selling point for the game on its own merit. But it just does everything to like the highest quality, and I think like it's a kind of game not everyone's going to enjoy because it is an investment. It is something that, asks a lot of you as a player. It's kind of complicated and like hard to learn at first when you start. But I think it's just absolutely phenomenal, and it's the best like game I've gotten the most immersed in terms of role playing, and obviously like the co-op aspect elevated it as well. And I think if you've ever been into D&D or like any kind of like story-based RPG where you actually want your decisions to matter, as well as like if you're into turn-based combat, it's just perfect. It's beautiful. It like you said about Royal, everything is so seamlessly integrated together, and I was so blown away by how much I played this game. Like I would play for like 5 hours at a time, take a break, and then be like, okay, I just want to play Divinity again. Like I'm not thinking about anything else. It's like it just sucked me in. It is absolutely beautiful.
Well, I will commit this right on the show right here and now, Kate, to you and all of our listeners. At some point in 2021, I will play some Divinity Original Sin 2. And I will not promise to finish it, but I will promise that I'll check it out, because you've talked about this game now enough, on the show, where I feel like I owe it to you actually to play this. So
Aw,
at some point I will try it out, just so to see you know what I
wonderful.
feel about it. But yeah, that's awesome. I'm not surprised. I'm glad you enjoyed it as much as you seem to, because that's great. It's always nice to hear someone who has such a passion for something they played. And
Mhm.
that's obvious with you with Divinity, so that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, this kind of encompasses the whole reason we make this show is because, we get so invested in so much enjoyment out of these games. And on the coin flip of that, if you're listening to what we love to play, we'd love to absolutely hear like what your game of the year award was for any of these specific awards, or just your overall game of the year. I think we would have an absolute blast reading through those. If you want to send us in your picks for the year.
Yeah, yeah, please do. Circlesandsquarespod at gmail.com, as we said at the top of the show. And you can also, while we're on the topic, you can go to our Twitter. It's a lot easier over there. Just look for us, CANDS pod on Twitter. We got a link tree there, so you can click that link, and it's conveniently displays all of our different places to you, including our email. So go check us out on there. And I think that's going to move us into our listener mail section, Kate, because we did have someone write in with a question for us, if you would like to read that.
I would, and they've requested that we read it verbatim, which I will do now, and I think it's the only way to really ask this question. But he says, "Hello, options and D-pad," which is very cute and cheeky. Long time listener, first time writing in a question. What is your favorite PlayStation accessory? Mine happens to be my PS2 remote control. It's like a TV remote for your PS2. Isn't that wild? My ears are thirsty for the quenching answer you will undoubtedly provide. Warmest regards. And that was sent in by XX Swaggity Swag Swaggins underscore 8008 XX.
Swaggy Swaggins, thank you so much for your question.
Thank
Well, I mean, I did some thinking on this, and I've come to think that like I didn't actually throughout my time owning any consoles previous to like the PS4 own too many of the accessories. Like I didn't have an iToy. I actually didn't even own a multi-tap for my PS1. I just used it like when friends came over, like when they brought it. So I was kind of stuck on this, and I was thinking like, man, I really have been enjoying my Pulse headset that I've had since having the PS4. But I mean, a headset, that's kind of a boring answer in a way. So you know what I went with, Kate, is I look back and I'm like, what accessories have I owned? And then it dawned on me. It's the Rock Band guitars and drum set. That is the best accessory, a group of accessories you could possibly ask for. Like the hours and hours of entertainment of playing, you know, not only Rock Band Guitar Hero back in like the, you know, late 2000s around that time, like with friends and everything, but then also like later we actually bought a Rock Band set for our dad a few years back just because he actually used to get really into it too. And after we bought that, we've had a few nights playing with him and just some family, and this game is just always a blast, you know, and you can't play it without the guitar accessories and the drums. So those are the best accessories in my opinion.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Like I didn't even my brain did not go there, but like that's definitively the right answer.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
I don't even want to contribute anymore. Like
I don't
that
even know
is
if it's
amazing.
cheating, you know? Like, is it cheating? Because technically those are the
It's
accessories
like a
for Rock
game
Band.
as well.
But then, yeah, but I justified it because it's like, the accessories have, you know, the specific PlayStation stuff on them, or they have Xbox stuff on them if you buy it for Xbox. So
yeah, no,
I don't feel like
think
it's cheating.
I think that counts. I think Swaggins would be chill enough to let us answer
Let
like
us know,
that.
Swaggy. Let us know.
You let us know. But yeah, I think that's fantastic. I went super super boring because I was trying to think of like accessories I owned.
The
and, like,
DualShock 4.
yeah, I mean the controller, like it's wild, right? It's like a remote for your TV. Some would say, but yeah, I try to think of like an actual accessory, and like I never buy them. I don't own that kind of stuff. So I went with like what I like to own, and it's the controller dock. It's
Oh,
kind
that's
of
actually not
boring,
bad
but
though.
like the controller dock, I like the way it looks. It's nice. It like displays your controllers really
Charges them up
beautifully,
all
and then also
nice.
like charges them up. I think that's nice. Like I have like a dumb system of charging my controller where like I always watch YouTube when I work out in my living room. And so I have this habit of like when I have the YouTube video on for my workout, it's going to be like playing for a while. And I'm also like not going to be like, you know, adjusting or doing anything else with it. So I just like charge it every time I work out. And then that way my controller never dies. But it's like kind of like a dumb, weird system I've made so that like charging is convenient to have it plugged in. So I like a
Yours is
dock
more
would
of a
be
utility answer, you know?
yeah, so, like, a dock would be nice because, like, you know, it fulfills that looks good, but also functional, so I guess that would be my pick, but, like, oh, man, do I wanna amend it to, like, the, like, DDR dance pat now.
Hell yeah, yeah. The DJ Hero DJ tables.
That's right.
Well, if
I
you would
love
like to
it.
know, let us know which your favorite PlayStation accessory is, please write into our email address, which you can find on our link tree and everything else there is there as well. Kate, it's been a pleasure podcasting in 2020 with you, and I
Mhm.
look forward to what the next year will bring for us. I think we're in for some special stuff, and I just hope people find the show, you know, subscribe, listen, get enjoyment out of it, all that stuff. Thank you everyone that does support us, for
Mhm.
sure.
Absolutely, and, have a wonderful Merry Christmas and or holiday season, and a very Happy New Year.
Absolutely. We will see you all in 2021 to talk about our predictions as well. So, last reminder of the show, if you have anything you'd like to predict, PlayStation or otherwise, video game adjacent, of course. If you have 2021 predictions, send them in to us. We'll read them out on the show, and we'll get into our predictions next episode, as well as we're going to revisit our 2020 predictions as well and just see how we did. Maybe have a laugh at those. So, yeah, until next time, guys, we'll see you next year, and thank you very much for listening. The intro and outro music for Circles and Squares was produced by friend of the show, Matthew Chan. Interlude music is from Scott Gratton of the Free Music Archive. Our channel art was created by @unreasonable on Twitter, and our brother Alex is the designer of the Circles and Squares logo. Thank you all for listening and supporting the show.